Good morning. My name is Virginia Mayfield. I'm with the Tennessee Department of Education, the Senior Director of Math, Science, and Instructional Materials. We will be starting here in just a few minutes. All right, good morning. Thank you all for joining us. This is the publishers meeting scheduled for February the 18th from 8:30 to 9 o'clock. I'm going to give you some information this morning that will help you as you're filling out your bid documents. Some of you have sent questions in. I will address those that I have answers to this morning. If you have questions following this presentation, please email them to tennessee.textbooks@tn.gov. That is where you will need to send any questions following this meeting. It is not set up in a way that you can ask them during the meeting. Please send them as a follow-up email. That way I can make sure that if there's anything that our legal team needs to look through or that I need to ask the Textbook Commission about, we get you the most accurate answer. So once again, my name is Virginia Mayfield. I really appreciate you joining us this morning. I'm going to share a couple of things with you. I've got some different information to give. I'm actually going to start with the Excel sheet that was in your bid packet. And give me 2 seconds. Okay, you should be seeing that on your screen at this point. This is the Excel document that you have. There's a couple of things that I want to point out to you that have been flagged for us. The first one is in subject area. So for subject area, when I created this document or stole it from someone who previously used it, I didn't realize that it was pre-populated with content areas. You will want to take those out. You have the option of you may change and get rid of the drop downs and just type in math, or there will be a new version of this one with math as a drop down menu posted on our website early next week. So the first thing I wanted to clarify is subject area. You may modify both tabs at the bottom, the one that says resources for review and also supplemental resources. Both of those have the same issue with subject area. You are free to delete what's there and put in just math, or early next week, there will be one on the website that you can download that will have math as the only option in the drop-down menu. So that was the first thing that I wanted to clarify on this particular page. The second one is the importance of filling it out accurately. This is the document that will become part of your contract. It's also the document that will go before both the Textbook Commission and the State Board of Education when they go to approve materials. It is super, super important that this document is accurate when you submit it to us on March the 4th by 10 a.m. electronically to the Tennessee Textbook email account. It is really difficult to change this once it's been submitted. The reason that's hard is because, for one thing, there are so many lines to this particular sheet, and also there's so many of you that send them to us. It gets very cumbersome on the TDOE side, so please fill them out accurately before they're submitted. That is super important. One change that we've done in this process this year that I want to call out is the 2 tabs at the bottom. The first one saying resources for review. Your directions for that is those are the materials that you as a publisher are saying that the advisory panelists need to review your material fairly and accurately It's all of the materials that a teacher would need to work with students on a daily basis. So super, super important that you identify those resources for review. It's also super important that you realize that you will supply those materials to the advisory panelist teams. So that's the first tab. The second one is all the other resources that come with your product that are not needed by the advisory panelists for review. They would be listed on the second tab within this particular Excel sheet. So we did that to try to cut down on the number of documents that you have to submit to us. So that's the Excel document, 2 tabs, one what they will review, what they don't have to review, but are part of your program. You're identifying that. Subject area becomes math. This sheet must be electronically submitted to the Department of Education with your bid materials by 10 a.m. March the 4th, 2022, in order for you to be eligible for the advisory panelists to review your materials. It also must be submitted as a hard copy per the directions in the bid packet. Please make sure that that is postmarked by March the 4th as well. So postmarked by March the 4th and also submitted to the Department of Education by March the 4th electronically through email. So that was the first document that we needed to cover with you and make sure that you had an understanding of as we're moving through our presentation this morning. All right, so that's the first one. The second thing that was brought to our attention is in the directions for the bid documents. Let me pull that one up and display it. On page 5, so if you have it pulled up, it's the directions and the PDF page 5. Let me share that so that you can see it. At the top of this page, you'll see, in an effort to streamline the submission process, the link to access the bid summary form is located on the last page. There is no bid summary form. There is no link. That is what's been replaced by the first tab of the Excel sheet. Please disregard that within the directions. There is not a bid summary form that you will submit. There is no link on the last page of the directions. It didn't get deleted. So please ignore that. Please don't feel like that's something you're going to be doing. That is what has been replaced by the first tab within your Excel document, as we talked about just a moment ago. Excellent. The next thing that I would like to share with you is I just want to reiterate one more time when materials are due to us. They are due to us March the 4th. They are due to us by 10 a.m. electronically. Materials that are coming to us through the mail must be postmarked by March the 4th. So that is super, super important. Another question that we have gotten from quite a few of you are related to the W-9 form and how that should be filled out. One moment, let me share my screen so I can give you information. If I can get my mouse to cooperate. There it is. We reached out to the financial department here in, hang on 2 seconds, give me just a moment. Let's try this again. There we go. All right, when you send checks to the Department of Education, those should be sent to Treasurer, State of Tennessee. These are for the checks that must accompany your bid documents for the Department of Education, and then there's the address. What I do need to tell you is that I got clarification. Some of you have asked about the tax ID number. We're a state entity and do not have a tax ID because of that. So I can't give you one. What I was told to tell you this morning is that anything on that W-9 needs to be addressed to the treasurer for the state of Tennessee. There's the address that you would use within that W-9. Beyond that, if you have questions, please send them to me. I hope I didn't muddy the waters further, but that is the information that I currently have from our finance team here at the department. The next question that was asked of me is, where do you send your materials? Where do you send your teacher editions and those types of things? Anytime you mail anything to the Department of Education, if you would use Tennessee Department of Education Office of Academics, attention to me. We are now on the 9th floor of the Andrew Johnson Tower in Nashville. So that is the address that you would need to use. It is all over your bid document directions. Anything that gets sent to the Department of Education, whether it be through FedEx, be through the mail, anytime you send anything to us, that is the physical mailing address that should be used. So both of those super, super important. Next, I'm going to put me back on the screen. All right, I want to talk for just a minute about the grade band structure that the commission requested you submit materials in. I need to reiterate that for you. The bid bands that were approved by the commission back last fall are K2, 3-5, 6-8, integrated math, traditional math, 4th year math. What that means is that if you are going to bid a 2nd grade book, they are also requesting that you bid kindergarten and 1st grade. So if you bid in the K2 band, you are to bid all 3 of those materials, kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade. The same thing with grades 3 through 5. If you bid a 3rd grade book, you should also bid a 4th grade book and a 5th grade book. Middle school, if you bid 6th, you should also bid 7th and 8th. In high school, if you bid 1 book in the traditional series, like Algebra 1, you should also bid Geometry and Algebra 2. If you bid 1 book in the integrated sequence, like Integrated Math 1, you should also bid Integrated Math 2 and 3. The one anomaly to this is 4th year mathematics. You may submit a pre-calc book without a calculus book. You may submit statistics without doing pre-calc or calculus. Those 4th year math books are the one anomaly to this bid structure. The bid structure that must be followed is K2, 3-5, 6-8, integrated math, traditional math, and then 4th year math is a one-off by itself. So it's very important that when you bid materials, you follow that. If you do not bid within those bands, your materials will not be reviewed by the Tennessee Textbook Commission per their request. So it's super important that I told you that this morning. The next thing I want to clarify just a little bit is I want to talk about those 4th year math courses. Those standards got delayed in their review by the State Board of Education. On our website, many of you have already noticed, we have posted draft standards of pre-calculus, calculus, and statistics. Okay, those standards that are posted for statistics are pretty much the standards that the Standards Revision Committee has gone with and that will be presented to the State Board of Education coming up in May. I will have a clean copy of those that have the minor edits that committee made posted by early next week. They are still in draft form, but it will be posted for you to see. If you have built materials to the ones that are currently up there, you're in really good shape because they didn't change. Calculus is the same story. The calculus standards really did not change. The standards that are posted when they went through the standards review team by the State Board of Education, they didn't change them very much. They very, very minor tweaks to wording, but no, I don't think even any of the codings changed. Like that course stayed extremely stable and is pretty much the exact same as it has been. Pre-calculus has minor differences to what is currently posted. Those standards will be posted in draft form, reposted next week. The changes to those standards, there were a whopping 6 of them. There were 3 standards that were dropped dealing with matrices because those standards were moved back into the Algebra 2 space. And then there were some standards that were added that typically would have been in Algebra 2. And if your math team, if you talked to your math team, I am sure they would all say, oh, we don't usually typically include those in pre-calc because those are Algebra 2 skills. Well, they got bumped up. Things like, without sounding too math geeky, that I squared is -1. That's something that typically would have been covered in Algebra 2 and is no longer in our algebra standards. So that standard was moved into pre-calc. It is typically a precursor for what you would have seen in your pre-calc standards. So there are like 4 or 5 of those that got shifted, and they're basically precursory standards that they may already be in your materials, but they may not, those precursory materials, or those precursory standards to the standards that are already within the course. The last one is there was one that was tweaked for wording just a little bit that had to do with the unit circle. Once again, to reiterate, those standards will be posted in their most up-to-date form, which are still draft. They have not been approved by the State Department of Education and will not be until May. But we do not anticipate changes beyond pretty much what the math committees have already done. They will be posted in draft form early next week. The one course I do want to bring your attention to is Applied Math Concepts. Applied Math Concepts took a major revision, which we did not anticipate at the state level. The standards review team has revised that course to target it towards students who are going to the workforce, students who would be going into the military, or students who are going to one of our technical schools, our TCAT schools across the state. They've worked really hard to think about that population of student. They have also changed the name of the course. So Applied Math Concepts, once the new standards are in place, is not a course name that exists any longer. So in an effort to be fair to the publishing community, because we know you do not have time to pivot your materials between now and March the 4th, we are not going to bid Applied Math Concepts materials for this go around. We're going to pause on that one. It will go through with the science materials next year. We do not have a choice with the State Board of Education punting and waiting a year to review those 4th year math courses. We didn't anticipate the change, but our standards revision and the state that worked for our standards revision team that worked for the state board were very passionate about that course and wanting to make sure we were meeting the needs of all students in Tennessee. Thus, that course massively changed. In fairness to you as the publishing community, we know that you don't have time to pivot. So please know that that material will eventually be bid, but it will not be bid this cycle. It will be bid in conjunction with the science cycle that will run next academic year. So I wanted to make absolutely sure that you had that information this morning. Double check my list. A few more things that have come in from publishers that I just want to make sure that I answer. We've had questions come in about when the state reviews the products and if you make changes. I cannot answer that question today. We are still in the process of working out exactly what that's going to look like and sound like. For if a publisher needs to resubmit anything or submit revised content, I'm not far enough along this train to be able to answer that question. I will get you an answer for the publisher who submitted that as soon as I can, but I do not have that answer for you this morning. As far as the 3 qualified content experts, having that filled out, it needs to be submitted with your bid documents, which means it needs to be postmarked by March the 4th, please. I have already taking care of the bid deposit checks. We've talked about that already. We've talked about when you send teacher materials, who you should send them to. They should come to me, 9th floor, textbook services. We've already had that, or we already had that email address put up there. We've had questions on when the final Tennessee Math Instructional Materials scoring rubrics will be posted. My team right now that we have a approved template from the Textbook Commission, the math team at the Department of Education, per the request of the commission, is in the process of working through developing those rubrics out. They have to be finished by April when the advisory panelists start their work. I would look for them to be posted on our website sometime in early to mid-April. It will take us that long to finish them, as we are currently developing one for every grade and course for this review. So it will take a while. Please don't expect them until the April timeframe. As far as there is a comment on those that says the publisher must provide a Tennessee Standards Alignment Guide as a part of their scope and sequence for the material. That is not something we anticipate you to submit separately. It is something that is most likely already embedded in your materials that just shows where the Tennessee standards are covered within your materials and that they are labeled as Tennessee standards per state statute. All materials in the state must align explicitly and exclusively to the Tennessee standards. So it is super important that in any scope and sequences that are within your materials, that the standards that you are referencing are the Tennessee academic standards. So that's what is meant by that. It is not a unique or different scope and sequence that you must submit. It simply means within the scope and sequence that is in your material already that you've addressed the Tennessee academic standards and where they occur within the material. I believe I have covered everything that I have received that I have answers for. We're going to finish up about 5 minutes early. I do very much greatly appreciate that you've joined us this morning. As always, anything that we post, we will post those on the Tennessee textbook website. Know that there's a publisher tab on there. I would encourage you to look for any updates there. The materials that I discussed this morning, like that Excel document that we will correct our mistake on and repost, that is where you will find that. If you want to wait on our revised version to use. If not, please know that you are welcome to just change that column to math yourself. We very much appreciate your attendance this morning. Once again, if you have questions, if there are things that you need to know beyond this, or if I've sparked things that you need to ask, email address. Oh, I'm gonna put it up for you. Well, I'm not going to put it up for you because I can't open my email. It's tennessee.textbooks@tn.gov. Many of you email us on a regular basis. Please be patient with us. As we get those, we answer them as quickly as we can. Please know that if I don't know the answer, it means that I've had to talk to our legal team or talk to our business manager. So there are times when I don't know the answer and it may take a little bit longer to respond to your email. We are doing the best we can to answer them in a timely manner. Thank you for your time and your attendance this morning. Thank you, Dr. John Combs. He's with the Tennessee Textbook Commission. He has joined us to listen in this morning and was in attendance as well. We greatly appreciate you. We appreciate your time this morning. And once again, if there are things that you need, please email us. Have a great day. Thank you.